I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'm James Rule, and today we're going to be talking about another leadership essential, positivity. Now, it's easy to dismiss positivity as some sort of wishy-washy, feel-good attribute, but I passionately believe the contrary, that it is an essential for every leader. In this ever-changing leadership landscape that we're all navigating through, it is imperative to find positivity because not just the impact it has on you as an individual, but the impact it has on your wider team. It will help them collaborate. It will help them find new levels of resilience. It will foster innovation within your team. And fundamentally, it will help them keep moving forward, finding high levels of productivity and performance, and keep that momentum going, irrespective what adversity or challenges are placed in front of them. And if you need a reinforcement of that notion, I encourage you to think back to a particularly negative leader that you have worked with or under in the past. How does that impact you? How does that affect you? How did that drive your level of innovation, energy, productivity, performance? And now that you've got that individual in mind, flip to thinking about somebody that you've worked alongside or underneath that was a leader that really epitomized positivity, and how different I'm sure your thought process is now when you think about the impact that had on your energy, your output, your productivity, and your performance. So we've all got that validation in our own experiences, the impact of a positive leader versus an inherently negative leader. There's a great quote that really resonates with me on this topic from a lady called Elizabeth Browning, and it says, "Light tomorrow with your today." And that really talks to this point for me, that you have the ability to inspire your people to take action and move through challenge and adversity. And as I say, I'm very passionate about this because during my tenures as a CEO, we naturally endured all manner of challenges, as every team does, as every leader will. And I took it as a real compliment when I heard people talk about my leadership style and say that I was a positive leader. That was something that took discipline. It's not always easy to be positive in the face of challenge, but I knew the impact that it would have on my team. And therefore, I really strived to make sure that I brought positivity in both my words and my actions and tried to role model it, because I knew that was the only way to punch through challenge and keep moving forward. The opposite, being negative, the woe is me, a panicked attitude, whichever way you want to articulate it, that ripples out into your organization as well, and you're not going to get anything positive from that. So I just want to pull out a couple of leaders that I hear positivity being referenced a lot when I research them, when I read about them, and how it impacted their professional achievements. First of all, the Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella. I probably am not pronouncing that correctly, but that name came up repeatedly around the sort of time, I think it was around 2014 when he came into role. The company was stagnating. There was various elements of the business that were being criticized, and his positivity fostered a new energy, brought the business together, and was integral in driving collaboration, particularly, and a lot of achievements that came out of that are notable, particularly the formation of teams, a tool that many of us use on a daily basis. And I wanted to use that as an example because in a positive environment, we do find higher levels of collaboration. Fear and negativity has an ability to close off that creative thinking and that ability to innovate. Moving out of business into sport, naturally, as anybody who's listened to the podcast knows, I have a real passion for sport, and I think there are so many leadership lessons that can be drawn out of sport and applied into business. A leader that I particularly admire is a gentleman called Richie McCaw. He was the former captain of the New Zealand Rugby Union team and led his team to 2 successive World Cups in 2011 and 2015. Now, he is widely regarded as having a phenomenal work ethic. That's something that comes up repeatedly. He's also regarded and applauded for his levels of humility, but also positivity, an ability to remain calm and to look for solutions. And again, why positivity is so important is you set the tone. You are that emotional thermostat within the organization. And when the team, whether that's a business or sporting team, is under pressure, they look to their leader. And when they see positivity and calmness, then it drives their resilience. They feel a sense of calm. As I said in the earlier point, that enables them to look for innovative solutions, and it allows them to keep moving forward, keep being productive. So again, I like to pull these real world examples because it just brings these concepts to life. Another leader going a bit further back in time, Dwight Eisenhower, phenomenal leader in World War II, and the D-Day campaign was fought with potential pitfalls, but that's a particular facet of the war that he is highly regarded in. His ability to remain calm, his ability to remain positive, to believe that despite the enormous level of opposition, pressure, pitfalls, challenges that could go wrong, he believed it would work. And his positivity had helped keep driving his team and his people forward, and ultimately to what was a successful campaign. What he built was a confidence, a belief, and then a unity within the team. And that's another trait that I see a lot, that a positive leader inspires that confidence and it pulls people together. They all feed off each other's confidence, and it all originates with the positivity of the relevant leader. So when it comes to cultivating positivity, it isn't as simple as just flicking a switch and you are instantly positive and your team are positive and all the benefits I've just alluded to in this episode suddenly fall magically into place. It takes far more intentionality and practice to make this come to fruition. And so, as ever with these episodes, I want to share some actionable strategies that I believe will help you drive your individual levels of positivity and then see that ripple out into your wider team. So the first strategy, an area of focus, would be transparent, but focus on solutions. Now, being positive isn't about putting your head in the sand and being blindly optimistic and just saying everything's always going to be perfect. There's a quote that I came across. It's anonymous. I'm not sure who said this originally, but it said, staying positive does not mean that things will turn out okay. Rather, it is knowing that you will be okay no matter how things turn out. And I like that positioning because you need to, as a leader, be transparent. You need to lay out the scope of the challenge, the adversity that you face. But you want people to avoid dwelling on the fear and the negativity around that challenge and then move into a solution mindset. The key question to always be asking and challenging your people with is, what can we control? It moves people into that growth mindset. It moves people into a solution-orientated focus and the energy and the momentum that comes with that, because we start taking action and we start addressing the challenge. And as we build momentum, it raises confidence and we propel ourselves forward. The second tip is celebrate wins and practice gratitude. It's easy to become overwhelmed when you're dealing with a high level of challenge. Your mind is drawn to where the next fire is that you need to extinguish, how much is still left to be done before you can overcome this particular challenge. But it's critical not to be blind to the excellent work that is taking place around you, and gestures of thanks and appreciation, whether they are one-to-one, whether they are the quiet word in somebody's ear, a text or an email, or perhaps a more public recognition to a team member in front of their peers. Taking the opportunity to regularly thank people, express gratitude, and express recognition for progress being made is integral in building that positive environment. People feel valued. When people feel valued, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, they find higher levels of performance. So seek out those opportunities and embrace them regularly to maintain that positive environment in your team. The next tip to discuss is stay composed. We've done a whole episode on composure, and a lot of the previous episodes, there is overlap. We've talked about optimism, we've talked about composure. Today, we're talking about positivity. But I guarantee it's nigh on impossible for people to feel a sense of positivity, a positive vibe emanating from you as their leader if you are losing your head, if you are no longer composed, if the latest update or piece of negative news is putting you into a tailspin. So you have to find the mechanisms and the techniques that work for you to retain your composure. And that's something as a coach I spend a lot of time with individuals on. But if that is an area that you need to explore, please go back to the former episode that you'll find in the show notes where we talk more specifically about maintaining your composure. The next tip to consider is foster innovation and reward creativity. When you're faced with challenges, you need solutions. And often solutions come from creative thinking, stepping into areas that we haven't been in before, trying something different. Now, this ties back into your positivity as a leader, because if you're encouraging people to be innovative, if you're rewarding that sort of out of the box thinking, then you get more of it. Conversely, if you come down heavily on people if they make mistakes, guess what happens? They suddenly retract. The creativity levels fall away and people are less likely to be innovative for fear of ridicule or rebuke. Now, I'm not saying that you just give people a blank canvas and that people can make mistakes repeatedly over and over and there's no consequence. But I appreciate, and I know you will appreciate, there's a fine balance. Yes, if people make mistakes, it's on you to sit and discuss and make sure the learnings are taken out of that so that they don't repeat them. But going back to the classic illustration of this, Thomas Edison and his 1,000th attempt, I think it was, before he finally developed the light bulb. Think of all those failures. And it's easy to look at these cliches and just let them go in one ear and out the other. But think about your team. Think about how you lead. Are people comfortable being innovative, potentially making mistakes en route to coming up with a groundbreaking new solution or a significant impact on the current strategy? If they're not, then it maybe ties back into how they feel your reaction will be, whether it is going to be overtly negative or positive. So reflect on that, because you want a high level of innovation in your team. The next tip is to watch your words and body language. You might think you are a positive leader, but do your words, the tone, and particularly your body language communicate something different? We talked about Richie McCaw, we talked about Eisenhower at the start of this episode. They were inherently positive leaders, and their words, their body language, their whole demeanor reflected that. It is impossible to create a positive environment if you are shoulders down, frazzled, and your words are inherently negative. Now, again, it isn't blind optimism. It isn't about never recognizing a challenge, far from it, but you can recognize and articulate a challenge, as we said earlier, about being transparent, but use words that encourage people to believe we can find a solution. You may reference previous situations that have a relevance. You know, it's similar to the time that we faced challenge X. This is what we did, and we found a solution. And again, you might think this is a bit wishy-washy, a bit of a flimsy thing to focus on, but how you carry yourself, how you walk into a room, people will make an assessment within seconds about what frame of mind you are in. And obviously I worked in sport for a long time. I was always very, very focused how I would walk into the office on a Monday morning after a loss, for instance. When you lose in sport, it's a very public arena. Your players are criticised, your coaches are criticised, often your staff are criticised. And with the advent of social media, that criticism was very, very vitriolic at times. So you needed to find a way, and body language and words was really important to encourage people to step forward again, to not go into the shell, because there's another game the following week. And so whether you're in sport or any other sector, be mindful of your body language. You will feed people's resilience and energy when they see you looking composed and looking positive. Which takes me on to the next tip: prioritize well-being. You cannot be a constant source of positivity if your batteries are completely drained. Again, it's a theme that permeates so many of the topics we talk about on this podcast, but I will keep reinforcing it, because common sense is not always common practice, And you need a full battery in order to bring the best version of you to your role and the best level of leadership impact that you can deliver. And so it is important to reflect on, how do I recharge mentally and physically? Where can I exercise? Where can I take breaks? What do I need to engage in away from work in terms of relationships, passions, hobbies, etc., that allow you to process out the stress so that when you step over the threshold of work again, people see that positive you in terms of your body language, your energy, your appearance. But it needs discipline. You cannot keep stretching that proverbial elastic band. Eventually it will snap. You've got to put some time and effort into how you recharge. And again, being a good role model will show that that's what you expect, and that is what your team will start to embrace. And when they're prioritizing their well-being, guess what? They are able to sustain their performance, their levels of resilience, and the rising tide lifts all boats. But if they see you neglecting that, then it becomes much easier for that to become part of the DNA, that people are not looking at their recovery. Building into my next tip, I want you to be able to focus on accessing a positive network. You feed off the energy and the influence of the people you spend the most time with. And if they are naturally negative and the glass is always half full, then that bleeds into your DNA and your leadership style. Conversely, when you can find a network of positive, inspirational people, then that will do the reverse. And I think it's really powerful to learn from other people's experiences. They will share insights and wisdom that allow you to draw strength from what they have endured and overcome. And that takes me into my final point. Inspire through stories. When you get close to people in your network and you learn about how they have faced similar situations and overcome them, and what they did and what they learned in the process, it gives you that strength. And that has a trickle-down effect. You can inspire your team and bring positivity through stories, your personal experiences, in the existing organization that you currently lead, or perhaps in previous organizations, and encourage people, when you're building that environment of collaboration, to share their stories and insights of situations that they've endured. And all of this reinforces that collective belief that we can overcome. Going back to that quote I alluded to earlier, doesn't mean everything will be okay, but it means whatever happens, we will be okay, because we have the collective intellect, energy, resilience, skill set to keep finding solutions. And the more you expose yourself to inspirational stories that validate people's ability to find solutions, the more you will find that that happens within your team as well. So I hope this really reinforces the fact that positivity is a leadership superpower. I always encourage reflection. How was your level of positivity in 2024? If you had to mark yourself out of 10 and said, right, if you were going to go and talk to my key stakeholders, the staff that I lead, the customers, the clients that I interact with the most, where would they rank me in terms of positivity? The demeanor I exude, the body language, the words, all the things we've talked about today. Hopefully it's a high score. If it's not, don't panic. These are actionable tips that we've talked about today that you can start implementing immediately to ensure that that level of positivity increases. And as we said right at the top of the episode, it's not empty words and rhetoric. It is a tactical tool to get the most out of you and everybody around you. I wish you the best of luck with the implementation. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.